My fiancée confessed she regretted leaving her ex for me, so I called off our wedding, and the fallout that followed flipped her world upside down. I, a 29-year-old male, work as a paramedic and have been with my fiancée, Erica, a 27-year-old female, for 3 years. She teaches elementary school. We were supposed to get married next spring. I own the house and she moved in about 1 year ago. Here is where things started getting weird. Around February, she began acting differently. She spent more time on her phone and would not let me see who she was texting. She started going to bed earlier and was overall distant. When I asked what was wrong, she blamed work stress or wedding planning stress. The phone thing really bothered me. We had always been open about our phones. If hers rang while she was in the shower, I would answer it. Normal couple stuff. Suddenly, she became protective as hell, keeping her phone face down on the table, taking it to the bathroom, and never leaving it charging where I could see it. I tried talking to her about it, but she insisted everything was fine and said I was being paranoid, so I backed off. I started working extra shifts to save money for the honeymoon. We had talked about going to Hawaii since she had never been and always wanted to see the islands. I figured maybe I was being paranoid and picked up extra shifts to save more money for the honeymoon. I was putting in 60+ hour weeks sometimes, which meant less time at home and less time to notice her weird behavior in the last few weeks before everything exploded. She was practically a different person. She was still going through the motions of being my fiancée, still talking about the wedding and our future. But it felt fake, like she was acting out a role instead of being excited about marrying me. I was still in denial, still making excuses, thinking maybe once we got through the wedding planning stress, things would go back to normal. I thought maybe she was just one of those people who gets overwhelmed by big events and shuts down emotionally. I was so wrong about everything. Last month, we were supposed to go to dinner at this Italian place she picked out. It was nothing special, just a Tuesday night date. I was looking forward to spending some quality time together since we had barely seen each other all week. She had been weird all day, though. I got home around 5 o'clock in the evening, and she was already dressed, sitting on the couch, just staring at her phone. When I said hi, she barely looked up. I asked if she was ready to go, and she said, sure, in a flat voice, like she was doing me a favor. We got to the restaurant and the hostess sat us at a nice table by the window. Finally, I asked what was wrong for probably the third time. She put her phone down and looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Nervous, but also excited. I need to tell you something, she said. Calvin reached out to me. Calvin, her college ex-boyfriend. My stomach immediately dropped. She told me he had found her on Instagram a few weeks ago and said he had been thinking about her, that he made a mistake when they broke up. They had been talking, really talking about everything, about how they never should have broken up. I asked if she had been texting her ex for weeks without telling me. She said it was not like that at first, just catching up. But then old feelings came back. What they had was different, intense, passionate. Then she dropped the bomb. You know what, Chandler? Calvin used to make me feel like I was drowning in the best way possible. With you, I feel like I am floating in a kiddie pool, safe, shallow, and boring as hell. I keep wondering if this is really what love is supposed to feel like, or if I am just settling because you are convenient. Maybe Calvin is better for me. There it was. She just called our 3-year relationship boring. Called me convenient and said her ex was better for her in a restaurant. I sat there for probably 30 seconds just staring at her. She looked nervous now, like she was starting to realize what she had just said, but she did not take it back. All right, I said finally. Well, now nothing is stopping you. Her face went white. I told her she had just said her ex was better for her, so she should go be with him, but not while living in my house. She tried to backtrack, but I was done. I dropped $40 on the table and told her I was going home and expected her to be packing when I got there. The drive home was surreal. 3 years together, engaged for 6 months, and she basically just told me I was her consolation prize. Some jackass who dumped her in college was a better option than the guy who bought her a house to live in and was about to marry her. I kept replaying what she said. Drowning in the best way possible versus floating in a kiddie pool. Safe, shallow, and boring. Convenient. Those words were going to be stuck in my head for a long time. When I got home, she was on the couch crying, but I was done with her tears. I told her to start packing her stuff. She tried to argue, but I went to the kitchen and canceled our joint checking account on my phone while she was talking. I called my bank, too, to make sure she could not access anything else. It took her about 2 hours to pack. I did not help, just sat at the kitchen table and let her figure it out. When she was done, she stood by the door with her suitcases, looking at me like she expected me to change my mind. She asked if I wanted the engagement ring back and set it on the coffee table when I said yes. Before leaving, she said it was crazy to throw away 3 years over one conversation. "You are the one who threw it away," I told her. "I am just cleaning up the mess." And that was it. She left and I was suddenly single again after 3 years, sitting in my house that was way too quiet, looking at an engagement ring on my coffee table, wondering what just happened. By the next morning, the phone calls started. First was my mom, then my sister Sasha, then my dad. Word travels fast when you are supposed to get married in 2 months and suddenly your fiancé moves out. I kept it simple with all of them. I told them Erica decided she wanted to be with someone else and I was not going to compete for my own fiancé. My parents were pissed on my behalf. My mom wanted to know if there was another man involved. And when I told her about Calvin, she went off about how Erica was throwing away a good thing for a fantasy. My dad was more practical, asking if I needed help with any of the wedding vendors or canceling stuff. Sasha just called Erica an idiot, which honestly made me feel better. The hardest call was from Erica's parents. Her mom called me crying, begging me to work things out with her daughter. She kept saying that Erica was just confused and scared about getting married, that it was normal to have doubts. I tried to explain that this was not about wedding jitters, but she would not listen. Her dad left me a voicemail saying I was giving up too easily and that relationships take work. I did not call either of them back. What was I supposed to say? That their daughter told me I was boring and convenient compared to her ex, that she had been emotionally cheating for weeks? They would not want to hear that anyway. Our mutual friends were the tricky part. Within a few days, people started reaching out asking what happened. I made a decision early on that I was not going to trash talk Erica, but I also was not going to lie to protect her feelings. When people asked, I just said, "Ask Erica about Calvin," and left it at that. That simple phrase told them everything they needed to know. Most people are not stupid, they could figure out what happened from there. Honestly, I wanted her to have to explain herself. I wanted her to tell our friends why she threw away our relationship for her college ex. Word spread fast. Our friend group is not huge, maybe 15 people total, and within a week, pretty much everyone knew the basic story. The reactions were mixed, but mostly in my favor. The guys were all on my side. They understood why I could not stay with someone who basically called me her backup plan. Some of the women thought I was being too harsh and that I should have tried counseling or given her time to figure out her feelings. But screw that noise. I am not going to counseling to convince someone to choose me over their ex. I am not going to sit around while my fiancée figures out her feelings about whether she wants to be with me or some other dude. That is not how this works. The worst part was dealing with all the wedding stuff. We had already put deposits down on everything: venue, catering, photographer, DJ, flowers. Some vendors were understanding when I explained the situation. The photographer was cool about it, saying she had been doing weddings for 20 years and had seen it all before. She only charged me a small cancellation fee. Others were less sympathetic. The venue kept our entire deposit, saying it was too late to rebook for our date. The caterer wanted to charge us for food we had already ordered. All told, I was out about $8,000 in deposits and cancellation fees. $8,000 for the privilege of finding out my fiancé thought I was boring. But here is the thing. I did not ask Erica to help with any of the financial hit. I could have taken her to small claims court for half the costs, but I wanted a clean break. The money sucked to lose, but it was worth it to not have to deal with her anymore. The vendors were not even the hardest part. It was calling all our friends and family to let them know the wedding was off. These conversations were brutal. Everyone wanted more details, wanted to know if there was any chance we would work things out. The weirdest reaction came from some of the teachers at Erica's school. 3 different women reached out to me, not to defend Erica, but to check on me and basically say she had screwed up. These are people who work with her every day, and they were taking my side. That told me everything I needed to know about how she was handling the situation at work. Apparently, she had been telling people that we grew apart and had different visions for the future, typical nonsense to make herself look better. But teachers are smart and they could probably see right through her story. Plus, if she was acting weird at work the same way she was acting weird at home, they probably knew something was up. About 2 weeks after she moved out, I heard through a friend that Erica had been posting on social media about following your heart and not settling for less than you deserve. That pissed me off more than anything. She was making it sound like I was the one who was not good enough, like she had outgrown me or some nonsense. But I did not respond, did not post anything about my side of the story, did not try to set the record straight publicly. I figured the truth would come out eventually, and getting into a social media war with my ex-fiancé was not going to help anyone. The hardest part was just being alone in the house again. For over 1 year, I had gotten used to having someone there when I got home from work, someone to cook dinner with, watch TV with, talk about my day with. Suddenly, it was just me and way too much quiet. I threw myself into work, picking up extra shifts whenever I could. Staying busy helped, and the overtime pay would help make up for the money I had lost on wedding deposits. My partner at work, Mike, knew what was going on and was cool about covering for me when I needed to make vendor calls or deal with wedding stuff. The guys at work were supportive, too. A couple of them had been through divorces and told me I was lucky to find out who she really was before I married her instead of after. They were right, but it still sucked. About 3 weeks after everything went down, I was starting to feel like maybe I could move on. The immediate shock and anger were wearing off, and I was beginning to think about what I wanted to do next. Maybe travel somewhere I had always wanted to go, maybe renovate the house, maybe just focus on work and figure out the rest later. That is when everything got a whole lot more interesting. For about 6 weeks after everything went down, my life was actually pretty good. I know that sounds weird considering I had just had my engagement blown up. But hear me out. Once I got past the initial shock and anger, I realized how much stress had been lifted off my shoulders. No more wondering why she was being distant or secretive with her phone. No more wedding planning stress or arguing about guest lists and centerpieces. I could come home from work and just relax without having to analyze every conversation for hidden meaning. I had blocked Erica's number and all her social media right after she moved out. So, if she was trying to contact me, I would not know. Honestly, I did not want to know. She had made her choice clear as day when she told me Calvin was better for her. As far as I was concerned, she could go live happily ever after with her college ex and leave me alone. Around this time, I started talking to a nurse from the emergency room named Veronica. It was nothing serious at first, just casual conversation during downtime between calls. She was cool, though, funny, smart, and definitely easy on the eyes. More importantly, she did not seem to have any crazy ex-boyfriend drama going on. The contrast was pretty stark. Veronica would laugh at my stupid jokes, ask questions about my work, and remember details from previous conversations. All the basic relationship stuff that Erica had stopped doing months before our breakup. It made me realize how checked out Erica had really been toward the end. I was not looking to jump into anything serious right away. And Veronica seemed to understand that. We were just two people enjoying each other's company without any pressure or expectations. It was refreshing as hell after years of relationship drama and wedding planning stress. Then one afternoon, my buddy Joey called me laughing. I was at home doing some work around the house when my phone rang, and I could barely understand him at first because he was cracking up so hard. Dude, he finally managed to get it out. You are not going to believe this. Joey works with a guy whose girlfriend is friends with one of Erica's teacher friends. Small world, lots of connections. Anyway, word had gotten back to him about what happened with Erica and Calvin. Your ex got dumped, he said, still laughing. Calvin dumped her. I sat down on my couch trying to process this information. What do you mean dumped her? I asked. I mean he used her for about 6 weeks and then told her he did not really love her anymore. Said he just wanted to make sure about his feelings or some like that. The irony was incredible. After all that talk about their epic love story and how passionate their connection was, Calvin had basically used her for a hookup and tossed her aside again, just like he did in college. According to Joey's source, Calvin had been pretty upfront about it, telling Erica that being with her again made him realize they had both changed too much since college, that what they had was probably just nostalgia and that he did not see a future with her. Basically, everything she should have figured out before blowing up her engagement. Get this, Joey continued. Apparently, she has been calling him non-stop trying to get him to change his mind. Dude had to block her number. I felt a weird mix of emotions hearing this. Part of me felt vindicated. I had been right about Calvin being a piece of shit who would hurt her again. Part of me wanted to laugh at the irony of her getting a taste of her own medicine, but mostly I felt relieved that I had dodged this bullet. The next few days, I heard more details through the grapevine. Apparently, Erica had been posting on social media about learning to love yourself and knowing your worth, right up until Calvin dumped her. Then suddenly all her posts disappeared and she went quiet online. She had also been telling people at work that she was exploring what real love feels like and how she had never been happier. Her teacher friends had been supportive at first, but when the truth came out about Calvin using her, some of them apparently felt pretty uncomfortable about how she had handled the whole situation. I heard from my sister Sasha that Erica's mom had called my mom crying about how her daughter was going through a difficult time and asking if there was any chance I would consider talking to Erica. My mom politely but firmly told her no, that Erica had made her choice and needed to live with the consequences. About 1 week after Joey's call, I was at the grocery store when I ran into one of our mutual friends, Lisa. She had been at our engagement party and was supposed to be a bridesmaid. It was awkward as hell to see her, but she was actually cool about it. I just want you to know, she said. Most of us think you handled everything really well. What Erica did was messed up, and you had every right to walk away. That felt good to hear. Sometimes when you are in the middle of drama, you start questioning whether you overreacted or made the wrong choice. Hearing from someone who knew both of us that I had done the right thing was reassuring. Lisa also confirmed what I had been hearing about Calvin. She really thought he was going to leave his whole life behind to be with her. She said like she was talking about them moving in together and everything. It was delusional. Apparently, Calvin lived about 3 hours away and had his own life, job, and probably other women he was seeing. The idea that he was going to uproot everything for a woman he had already dumped once was pretty ridiculous when you thought about it. But that is what happens when you build a fantasy in your head based on nostalgia and emotional cheating. You convince yourself that your ex was this perfect person who got away when in reality they are just another flawed human being who already showed you once that they do not want to be with you. A few days later, Erica started trying to contact me. She called from different numbers since I had blocked her original one. I did not answer any of them. Then she showed up at the fire station where Joey works part-time, asking him to give me a message about how sorry she was and how she had made a huge mistake. Joey told her to kick rocks and told me later that she looked like hell, like she had not been sleeping or eating right. Part of me felt bad about that, but a bigger part of me thought she had earned every bit of misery she was feeling. When showing up at my friend's work did not get my attention, she decided to try a different approach. She wrote this massive Facebook post about our relationship and breakup. I did not see it directly because I had her blocked, but Sasha screenshot it and sent it to me. The post was insane. Complete revisionist history about what happened between us. According to her version, I never really loved her and could not accept that she had a romantic history. She said I abandoned her when she needed support the most and that I was too immature to handle adult relationship problems. Not a single word about Calvin. Not a single mention of her telling me I was boring and convenient compared to her ex. Just a bunch of nonsense about how I was the problem, and she was the victim. The comments were pretty brutal, though. A bunch of our mutual friends called her out for rewriting history. Someone posted, "Did not you leave him for your ex?" Another person said, "This is not how I remember it happening." Even some people I did not know were commenting about how her story did not add up. She deleted the post after a few hours, but the damage was done. Everyone could see she was trying to make herself look better by throwing me under the bus, and most people were not buying it. That is when I knew she was really desperate. When someone starts making up stories on social media to make their ex look bad, they have hit rock bottom. I was glad as hell that I was not part of that mess anymore. My 30th birthday rolled around about 3 months after everything went down. Normally, I am not big on birthday celebrations. It just feels like another day to me, but my family has always made a huge deal about birthdays, especially milestone ones, and they were not about to let me skip it just because I had recently become single again. I had been seeing more of Veronica over the past month. When I mentioned my birthday party, she seemed excited to meet my family, which was a good sign. The day of the party, I woke up actually feeling pretty good. 30 years old, I owned my own house, had a solid job, good friends, and was seeing someone who did not think I was boring or convenient. Not a bad place to be, all things considered. Hell of a lot better than where I had thought I would be a few months earlier when I was stressed about wedding planning and dealing with Erica's weird moods. Veronica showed up around 3 in the afternoon with this amazing chocolate cake she had made herself. She remembered me mentioning once that I hated the artificial taste of most store-bought frosting, so she had made the whole thing herself. Little gestures like that meant more to me than she probably realized. My mom loved her immediately. They spent like 20 minutes talking about the cake recipe and cooking in general. My dad was grilling burgers and invited Veronica to try his secret sauce, which he never shares with anyone. Sasha pulled me aside and whispered that she approved, which was huge because Sasha has never liked any of my girlfriends. The contrast with how Erica used to act at family events was pretty stark. Erica always seemed like she was doing me a favor by showing up. Like spending time with my family was some kind of chore she had to endure. She would be polite but distant, checking her phone constantly, complaining later about how long the events went or how my dad told the same stories over and over. Veronica actually seemed to be having fun. She was asking my mom about embarrassing childhood stories, laughing at my dad's terrible jokes, playing cornhole with Tom, and holding her own. She fit right in like she had been coming to family gatherings for years. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, we were all sitting around the fire pit my dad had built last summer. Good food, good company, a couple of the guys telling stories about stupid calls we had been on at work. I was thinking this might be one of the better birthdays I had had in years. Definitely better than last year when Erica spent the whole time on her phone and barely acknowledged it was my birthday. That is when someone knocked on the front door. At first, I figured it was maybe a neighbor complaining about the noise or asking us to move cars or something. We had been pretty loud and it was a Saturday evening, but when I opened the door, there was Erica standing on my porch with a wrapped present and this big fake smile like nothing had ever happened between us. "Happy birthday, Chandler," she said. I just stared at her. She looked different. Thinner, like she had not been eating right. Dark circles under her eyes like she was not sleeping well. Her hair was different, too, shorter, like she had cut it herself or gone to some cheap salon. She was trying to look happy and confident, but I could see the desperation underneath. "What are you doing here, Erica?" I asked. "I brought you a gift. Can I come in for a minute?" The conversation behind me in the backyard had gotten quieter. People probably wondering who was at the door if everything was okay. The last thing I wanted was to bring this drama into my birthday party with my family and Veronica there. "You cannot just show up here uninvited," I said. I know, but it is your birthday and I felt bad that we are not talking. I just wanted to give you this and maybe we could talk for a few minutes." She held out the present like it was some kind of peace offering, probably something she had bought months ago when we were still together before she decided Calvin was better than me. The whole situation was surreal. My ex-fiancée showing up at my birthday party after telling me I was boring and convenient, after getting dumped by the guy she left me for. "About what?" I asked. "About us. About how stupid I was. About how much I miss what we had?" I actually laughed, which seemed to surprise her. "You miss what we had? You mean the boring, convenient relationship? The kiddie pool?" Her face turned red. She had probably hoped I had forgotten about that comment or that time would have softened the impact of those words, but you do not forget when someone you love tells you that you are their backup plan. She tried to backtrack, saying she was upset when she said that she did not mean it. But we both knew she did mean it. People do not say things that specific and hurtful unless they have been thinking them for a while. That is when the front door opened behind me, and Veronica stepped out. "Everything okay out here?" The look on Erica's face was priceless. She went from hopeful to shocked to angry in about 2 seconds. You could see the gears turning in her head. I was supposed to be sitting at home miserable and alone, waiting for her to come back. I was not supposed to have moved on, especially not with someone who was clearly attractive and put together. "Who is this?" Erica's voice got loud and shrill. Veronica introduced herself calmly, saying she must be Erica, professional as hell. She did not take the bait or get drawn into drama, just acknowledged the situation and stayed composed. "You are already dating someone else?" Erica was getting louder now. "It has been 2 months. Actually, it has been almost 3 months since you chose Calvin over me," I corrected her. "And yeah, I am dating someone who actually wants to be with me." That is when Erica completely lost her mind. She started screaming about how I never fought for our relationship and how I replaced her like she meant nothing. Classic projection. She was the one who had thrown away our relationship for her ex, but somehow I was the bad guy for moving on with my life. Veronica just stood there looking uncomfortable, but not backing down. She did not try to defend herself or get into an argument with my ex, just stayed calm and let Erica make an ass of herself on my front lawn. The yelling drew attention from the backyard. My dad came around the side of the house to see what was going on. He took one look at the situation and told Erica she needed to leave. When she refused and kept screaming, Sasha came out too and told her to get off our property before they called the cops. My family had never really liked Erica, but they had been polite for my sake. Now that we were not together anymore, they did not have to pretend. Sasha, in particular, had zero patience for this and was not shy about saying so. Erica was not done, though. She was in full meltdown mode now, probably realizing that her grand gesture was not going according to plan. She had probably imagined showing up with a present and me being so grateful that she wanted me back that I would forget everything that happened. Instead, she was having a screaming match with my family while my new girlfriend watched from the sidelines. Not exactly the reunion she had been hoping for. Finally, she stormed off toward her car, but before getting in, she turned around one more time. "This is ridiculous, Chandler. Do not you think it would just be easier if we got back together? We have 3 years of history." I looked at her standing there, mascara running down her face, holding a birthday present for a relationship she had destroyed. 3 months ago, this woman had been my fiancée. Now, she was a stranger having a breakdown on my lawn because I had had the audacity to move on with my life. Easier for who? I called back, because it seems pretty easy for me right now. She got in her car and drove off, spinning her tires like a teenager having a tantrum. I went back inside to my party where Veronica squeezed my hand and did not ask any questions. My family was pissed, but got over it quickly. The rest of the night was actually really fun, like Erica's visit had been some weird intermission that we all agreed to ignore. I never opened her present, just threw it in the trash the next morning without even looking at what was inside. Whatever it was, I did not want or need it. That chapter of my life was closed and no amount of birthday gifts or dramatic gestures was going to reopen it. About 1 month after the birthday incident, I heard through the grapevine that Erica had moved back in with her parents. Apparently, she could not afford her own place on a teacher's salary without someone splitting bills with her. The irony was not lost on me. She had thrown away a relationship with someone who owned his own house and had a stable career for a guy who used her for 6 weeks and dumped her. I also heard she had taken a leave of absence from teaching. Whether that was voluntary or the school suggested it after her behavior became too erratic, I do not know. But it could not have been easy explaining to her coworkers why she was suddenly single and living with her parents again after being engaged just a few months earlier. Joey kept me updated on the gossip, probably more than I needed to know. Apparently, Erica had been trying to get back in touch with other guys from her past, not just Calvin, like she was working through a list of exes trying to find someone to take her back. Pretty sad when you think about it. But that is what happens when you burn bridges for no good reason. The funniest part was hearing about how Calvin reacted when he found out about her birthday party visit. Apparently, someone had told him about her showing up at my house, and he was pissed. He called her crazy and told mutual friends that he was glad he had gotten out when he did. The guy who had convinced her to leave me was now talking about her to anyone who would listen. That is the thing about guys like Calvin. They are great at talking women into bad decisions, but they disappear the moment things get complicated. He had filled her head with nonsense about their epic love story and how they were meant to be together, then bailed the second he got what he wanted. And now he was acting like she was the problem. Honestly, I stopped caring about the Erica drama pretty quickly. I had better things to focus on, like building something real with Veronica and advancing my career. The whole situation had taught me what I actually wanted in a relationship. Someone who chose me first, not someone who needed to be convinced that I was worth their time. Around the 6-month mark after our breakup, Veronica and I decided to move in together. She had been practically living at my place anyway, and it made financial sense for both of us. More importantly, it felt right. I was not nervous about the commitment or worried about her changing her mind. When you are with the right person, these decisions feel natural instead of forced. 2 months later, I ran into one of Erica's teacher friends at the grocery store. Lisa, the same one who told me I had handled everything well. She mentioned that Erica was back to teaching, but at a different school across town. Apparently, she had needed a fresh start away from people who knew about the whole Calvin situation. Lisa also mentioned that Erica had been asking about me, wanting to know if I was still with that nurse, and whether I seemed happy. The fact that she was still keeping tabs on my life through mutual acquaintances told me she probably was not doing as well as she wanted people to think. But that was not my problem anymore. I had moved on completely, built a new life with someone who actually wanted to be with me, and I was not interested in whatever ongoing drama Erica was dealing with. Some people learn from their mistakes and grow as human beings. Others keep making the same bad choices and wondering why their lives do not improve. The wedding dress she bought was probably still hanging in her parents' closet somewhere. An expensive reminder of the life she had thrown away for a fantasy. Meanwhile, I was building something real with someone who thought I was worth fighting for instead of someone who saw me as a backup plan. 1 year after our breakup, Veronica and I got engaged. It was nothing huge or dramatic, just a quiet proposal during a weekend trip we had planned together. Erica finally broke her silence. She sent me a long text from a number I did not recognize, probably borrowed from someone else since I still had her blocked. The message was a novel full of apologies, excuses, and begging for one more chance to explain. She said she had been going through therapy and realized she had made the biggest mistake of her life, that Calvin had been a fantasy and I was the real thing. That she had spent the past year thinking about me every day and regretting everything that happened. She claimed she was ready to fight for us now and wanted to meet up to talk about getting back together. I did not respond to the text. I did not even acknowledge that I had received it. Erica had said everything she needed to say 1 year ago when she told me Calvin was better for her. Nothing had changed except that her backup plan had fallen through and she was realizing that good guys do not wait around forever. Erica taught me what I do not want in a relationship. Veronica showed me what I do want, and that is worth everything.